Welcome to Mooreology Cubed, where three sisters discuss their unique perspectives on a topic. If you are a returning listener or a new one, thank you for being here with us. We would greatly appreciate if you would hit that button to like, share, or subscribe. Now to our conversation.
Welcome back to Mooreology Cubed. I'm Sidney-Angie, and I'm here with my sisters, Jennifer and Stephanie. We're here to talk about various topics from our own perspectives that we have on them. If you haven't subscribed already, please click the button to subscribe and like our videos if you find them interesting. And as always, if you have an idea for a topic, please leave us a comment so that we can look through and try and find some other topics to discuss. To begin, I just want to say that growing up, we lived in this area of Indianapolis. It's called Irvington. Now, each year in Irvington, we have a Halloween festival, and it's still happening today. It's almost 80 years later. This event each year encourages everyone to be more curious about the unknown. At least I felt that way. Not just about ghosts and goblins, though, other things too. So I recall as a kid, I used to go to the library, both at my school and there was a library like right down the street, to find books about basically everything unknown, including things like UFOs. So with this, I thought today we would talk about these recent released UFO files. Did you guys know that July 2nd was World UFO Day? Did either of you guys know that?
I didn't
No.
know that.
Yeah. So that just took place. And a lot of these enthusiasts thought maybe there would be more released files because there really hasn't been anything released since April. Nothing's been uploaded. I think it's interesting that our government purchased these websites to basically control those websites, the UFO.gov. But before we get into all things, I just want to kind of start with talking about the release of these files. And I found an article by CBC in Canada, which I think is funny that it's from Canada. But I thought that it had some good questions. So I thought we'd start with that. I'm going to pull that up. Let me see. Let me share. And I will pull that up.
So while you're pulling that up,
Yeah,
Angie,
sure.
I would just like make a couple notes. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're like referring to these as UFOs, and more in the more recent history, they're starting to refer to these as UAPs, which is
Yeah,
Unidentified
UAPs.
Anomalous Phenomenon.
Mhm.
I'd also just point out that, these have been, UFOs or UAPs have been being tracked by the US government since the 1947. It started off with a claim from a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold, who claimed that he had seen 9 high-speed crescent-shaped objects flying near Mount Rainier. I thought that was kind of interesting because I wasn't sure, like, how long has this really been going on? How
Well,
long have you
the
been
question
talking
is,
about it?
was it going on before that? This is what we know. And again,
Well,
you know,
the
they're
government
only
started
providing
tracking
certain
it.
things. So again, how much more do they know? And there's a lot
Well,
still to find out.
True,
well,
but
and to go before that, Jennifer, they also talked
mhm.
about the idea that they had what they call the Foo Fighters, which are basically from 1941 to 1945.
Yeah, during
Before the
World War II.
1947, during World War II, there was numbers of pilots who said that they saw certain things, and that's been recorded. Um, so we don't know how many people have actually seen things prior to that point, and things like that. So it's interesting. You're right that the bigger ones that we've seen obviously started with like 1947 when the
Well,
United States
that's the
federal government.
first officially reported one, and that's
Yes.
when the U.S. Air Force first started investigating. So
Correct.
that's really when we started like an official record of these, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, because, airplanes didn't really exist, right?
Correct.
You didn't have like photography, right? You have
Right, like aerial
drawings, things like
photography.
that. So it makes sense that, you might have some like verbal, like, or drawings of things, but you would not have had anything you could, really officially collect and archive, right? So again, I wasn't sure. Like, I didn't know because I don't pay that much attention to this.
And I'm
But
just gonna add, at least that we know of. At least that we know of.
oh,
I take it
Well,
all with a grain of salt.
well,
Well, there
yeah,
is
but
some articles though. So just so you know, because I did a little bit of researching on that, there are some like minor articles in the 1880s, but they're far and few between where there's like a description of something that's flying in the sky that they're not sure what it is. But it's like n not much is out there
Well,
prior to
some
the
say
19.
that there's things in the Bible that reference UFOs. So, it
We'll
could
talk
go back
about that.
a
Yeah.
lot further,
It
you
could
know.
go back a
yeah,
lot further, depending on your beliefs of what things are that have been
Right.
uh, etched in stone.
well, and I
Right.
guess
Or
I'm
in
not saying
art.
that it didn't go back further or anything like that, because I'm sure
You're
that
just saying that the original,
a
like,
written record doesn't really consistently exist until starting in about 1947.
right. And I mean,
That's
again,
it.
we know that people saw the Foo Fighters during World War II. They may have said something, but it wasn't really probably being tracked.
Correct.
You
So,
know,
what are
the,
your questions here? What are the
well,
questions here?
yeah,
So
go ahead.
yeah, let's go through. So let's talk a little bit about the release of these files. And this
The
is
disclosure files. The disclosure
yeah.
files.
And this is the third trough, right? This is the third
This
Correct.
is
set of them.
this is kind of about each of the ones that have come out. So all of them that have come out
Okay.
through and this was posted May 8th. So
Okay.
anything that had come out just recently that Trump released, this is kind of 5 key questions related to it. So the first one was, what's in this release? So basically their Pentagon, NASA, FBI files that include like videos, images, investigative case files, transcripts, and military mission reports. So materials go back as far as the 1940s.
Yes.
While some of the like video and images are more from our time period. So and this is, places over in the Middle East and Western US, um basically quite a bit of different things, although I have heard from many people that some of the things that were released are things that we've already seen, so it wasn't like brand new. So the next question was, why was it released now?
Can I
Because
go say
I'm
something about the
sure.
first one though?
Oh, sure.
So,
Go ahead.
okay. So here's the thing. The one thing I want to say about that is the stuff that they're releasing, keep in mind, is the unclassified
Right.
files.
It's become unclassified. They may
They
have been
have unclassified,
classified previously,
but
but now
now that's
they're
what they've given.
unclassified.
They have not given out any of what they consider the classified files. So there is a number of files that are still have not come out because they are classified. And they will, I don't know if they will unclassify those and release them at this point, or if they're going to remain classified, and I think that's what a lot of like different people are wondering when it comes to these releases. What, when you talk about the release that's been released, uh, what people need to understand is that, like what you said, Angie, some of this stuff is stuff that's already kind of been out there, but there are some new things that have been released under this. And so and it's caused a lot of questions, a lot of questions.
Absolutely. I agree. Again, they're not releasing, this isn't everything by any means. They're just released various videos, images, case files, transcripts, and mission reports, but very specific ones that they have unclassified. And again,
Correct.
even with these unclassified files, some of it still has things that are marked out, that you
Some of
can't
it's
see
highly
with it.
redacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's still some with these redactions questions out there. But the next question was, why is it released now? Why now? And I mean, I think a lot of it is just kind of Trump basically making, the federal agencies to release records. And it's specifically related to extraterrestrial life, UAPs, and I think a lot of it is just kind of something he wanted to do that other presidents haven't been able to do to this point. Now,
Well,
why is that? I don't know.
Angie, so in 2020, when Trump was in office the first time, there was a move, right, where they changed like the program that was being secretly funded by the
Oh,
Pentagon
the
priorly.
ATIP.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And basically it became a TEF, right? And then eventually transitioned to RRO,
The
AARO, which
Arrow, the
is
Arrow program. Yeah.
Arrow, yeah. But the thing to know about that is that, really that was an effort to like declassify and make things more transparent. It also was like a new agency position to gather and put all of this in, collect the information from every part of the government in one place for this specific type of information.
Right.
And since
Basically,
then, they've
UAP
had,
UAP materials.
right.
Right.
And
UAP
since
materials.
then,
Yeah.
they've had three large dumps of information, right? So one during Trump's first administration, one during the Biden administration, and one just recently. I mean, they're kind of
Right.
dropping stuff all the time, but it's pretty slow and pretty trickly. But
Right.
Think
it's
that
supposed to help like cross correlate, accounts, military logs, radar data, um, all types of information like that the government is collecting in one place.
Well, I think it's funny in the article because they also bring the other side of the view that this is basically just a way to distract people from other things, um, by kind of releasing larger amounts of information than previously ever done. So I just think it's interesting that they bring the other kind of thought that this may not be really, you know, for people from the UFO community, more just a distraction. So I think it's interesting in this article. And again, people have their right to their views of why they think, you know, more files have been released just recently than, goodness. I mean, let's look. They just acknowledged, you know, Area 51. How long ago? What was that, like 10 years ago?
yes. But here's the
So
thing, and the other thing is that you're talking about why release now. Okay, so let's go back to what Jennifer was saying. The first set was dropped in 2020, correct?
Yep.
And so the thing is that you need to also bring up there were some very significant whistleblowers,
that is true. There
that
has
came
been quite
out.
a few whistleblowers, but not only that, but I think the stuff in New Jersey also, with everything that, not just New Jersey, because there was other places impacted as well with the whole drone situation. Are there drones? Are there, these plasma balls, like different things people were seeing in the sky that was really causing a lot of people to get, have fear or just uncomfortableness because they didn't know what it was. And we were getting kind of different, like responses from the Biden administration versus the Trump administration. So, at first they're like, there's nothing to see here. And then they're like, oh, we're going to get down to the bottom of this. And then they're like, there's nothing to see here. Like,
Wow.
I
But I
don't
think
know.
that's the thing. I think some of the newest, so here's some of the stuff that I notice about why they're released and stuff like that. If you go back, okay, to some of the stuff that even people in 1947 with the first one that they saw on Mount Rainier, and then the second one that they basically with Roswell, um, those were definitely now what people are saying is those were definitely major cover-ups. And it was hush hush, nobody's going to talk about this. We're done with, we're not doing that and that sort of thing. So it kind of almost went quiet for a while. And then you have this reemergence in the late 70s into the 80s. And again, there's this heightened amount of UAPs, as they call them today, that are being seen throughout the world. But again, there's things that you don't have, like you guys talked about earlier. You don't have the photography like we have today, and you don't have cell phones like you have today that can take proof of things and put them on the net as fast as it goes. And
Right.
so, and people really, really kept things quiet. So, like these people who worked out at Area 51, they didn't speak about what they did. And so you've got this very different mentality. Whereas today, with what we consider the whistleblowers, the people who are choosing to step up, some of these people who are coming up are people that, when you look at their backgrounds, they have solid backgrounds. So you can't go through
It's
and
not the
say,
crazy
oh,
people.
you're a
But
crazy
there's people who
person.
could argue that
Yeah.
that's being purposely done as well,
Could
basically
be.
distract people. And I'm not saying either way, because honestly, I don't know. I
Well,
don't
and
know
I don't know if
why
I really
right
even
now, but
let's just say, I mean, let's say it is a distraction, but here's the key part of this. The key part of this is that, if you really look at this idea of what are we seeing in our skies, and I think the part of why is it being released now, I think part of it also has to do with um, we are now realizing the amount of different UAPs that are flying in our skies, and it's a security problem.
well,
It's a
there's some
security
who
problem
say
that we
that,
don't know
right.
what it is,
I think it's
that we
always
can't
been a
identify.
security problem.
Right.
I
And
think that's why the U.S. Air Force started tracking all of it. But I'm just curious, you guys. So, it's very secretive. Like they don't want to release anything. They want to pretend like it doesn't exist. And that's kind of been the way it's been really until 2020, right?
Correct.
And so, how much of that do you think was the result of the Orson Welles War of the Worlds release on the radio and everybody
that they
freaking out?
decided to hold off
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Well,
everybody freaked out. People
yeah. I mean,
got
people were
like
like crazy.
ludicrous over it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
well,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they feel people are more inclined to, handle it better. But I don't know. I don't know. There's so many different thoughts and that I have, because it's like, well, then why did they have to continue to say there was no Area 51? Why, with the release, hasn't he released anything for since April? Because I'm sure, plenty more, but
because it's
it's like
classified.
dropped off the face of the earth. It's like, here you go.
Angie, it's okay. So here's the thing. If you want to talk about Area 51, the thing is that if you totally believe that Area 51, the 1947 crashes and Roswell, and they do have UAPs out there, or flying saucers, or whatever you want to call them, UFOs out there, what has happened is, like with any technology, they have basically deconstructed it and taken the engineering that they know about things, and they've utilized that information. If they are to allow people to come see Area 51, what kind of classified information or technology is there? And you and I both know there are countries in this world that will steal your
That is
type
true.
of
I mean,
technology with
sadly,
a
man is not
heartbeat.
the best.
And so that's the thing. So I mean, I think you've got to flip it on that side too, and the idea of if you want to remain the superpower or remain with the highest technology in this world innovatively, and you've captured or been able to gather these, UAPs, UFOs, even non-human beings, you know, and to learn more about those, you may not want to share that information with other countries.
But might it be that this is just a bunch of chump change because these people have come out a way to kind of suffice people? There's
It could be, and it could be to suffice people, but it could also, I mean, here's the thing. Let's just say that you're a person who has been in that world all your life and believed all that. Or if you're a person who has stated that you have been basically abducted and taken into an aircraft, a UAP, a UFO, someplace outside of this world. And for all your life, you've been told that you are a crazy person because what do you know? You don't know what happened to you. You don't understand. You know what I mean?
it's
This
all
could
in
be a
your mind.
validation for, yeah, it's all in your mind. This could be a validation for people like that to get a better idea of, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. And it
Possibly.
validates
I
some of
don't
the
know
things
that
that they've
that's what
done.
Trump's trying to do, though. I
I don't
don't
know
think.
what Trump's doing, but
I
Trump's
think
not the
it's
first
more he
one.
wants to feel like he's done something.
Well, and you know what?
Personally,
I don't really care if
that's
he
my
wants to feel
personal
like he
belief.
does. Well, and that's wonderful. But here's the thing. I think that if you want to look at this as something that Trump wants to say he did, that's great. But I think it's a great thing in the sense that there are people in this world who have experienced stuff and have been told things about their lifetimes and have been able to now feel a little bit more of a validation that they're not crazy and it's not just in their head. And that
Well,
it's
I
really
agree. I
important that they
agree
know
with
that.
that wholeheartedly stuff,
So I
by
don't
all
really care
means.
what Trump does. I care about the masses of people
And I
who've
think
had to
it
live with
backs
this.
up these people that are coming forward that are talking about some of the things that they've seen too. I do
Correct.
think it does back up what they have seen or dealt with. Um, Not just them, but people from previous that have come forward, like Bob Lazar, that has been raided by the FBI repeatedly and
Yeah.
for just doing what he does, and so I mean I do see that obviously.
Well,
I love stuff related to this, so I'm all about give some more, pass us on some more.
and that's the thing. And I think that, you know, I I really hope that they're able to declassify more of this so that people can understand a little bit more about, okay, it, you know, I believe that universe is way too big for us to think we're the only living things in it. And and that belief probably started way before this point because I mean, if you go back, I want you to think about this. Like I started thinking back to like what really impacted me as I started to think about, you know, um, space, aliens, things like that. And then I started thinking about, well, what movies did I watch when I was a kid? And when I start thinking about different movies that I watched, like you talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you think about E.T. Well, the newest one is what? The Disclosure, which
Right,
all three of those were done by Steven Spielberg,
right.
which is really fascinating to me. Does he know something that we don't know? Hmm,
There's
I
people
don't
that
know.
question that. There's people that question that, no doubt, and videos that I've seen that they question. I mean, I don't think he has come forward in any of the like interviews that I have seen and said he knows something. I think he feels there's information out there that's being withheld from us. And
Correct.
and he's always had a fascination with this subject matter because of an incident that he had as a young kid. So,
It's a
I think
curiosity.
that's many people in our world that have had either an incident, not to the extreme of being taken or anything. But I think there's other movies from our time growing up also that allude to that. Ones we've talked about previous, like Invasion
Oh,
of the
the one
Body.
that the Body Snatchers. That's exactly what I was saying because Body Snatchers came out before. Well, no, yeah. Let me see this. The Body Snatchers came out the year after Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that's the thing. I mean, I think human beings have been probably very curious about this for a long time. And it's interesting that you say that because I thought to myself, what's the earliest that we have any recordings, besides etched on stone, people, because there's stuff
Not
etched on
like
stone,
not
but
like
like a
a
book,
painting.
not like a painting, but like, a book or something like that. And the
Like the
crazy part
Bible.
is, um, they're actually even older than that. There is a book that was put out. Let me get on my stuff so I can see it here because I've got it sent to myself because I actually want to listen to this book. Um, there is a literature book that's called True History. Okay. And the book True History is by this guy named Lucian. And Lucian actually was in ancient Greece.
So, and
And
he talks about UFOs or UAPs, whatever you want to call them.
well, it's funny because his book is something about in the gist of there were these men who were on their ship and they got sucked up at sea in this whirlpool and ended up on the moon. And
So
the
is this like
moon,
a historical account that he's making? Not
oh, it's
like
actually,
a
he's
literary
actually,
narrative.
no, it's a farce. It's a farce.
It's fictional.
It's a fictional.
Okay.
And it's one of there's some debate, and I'm not I mean, literature, I love literature, and I probably won't debate you on this, but there are people who debate that this is like the earliest science fiction writing that has
Okay.
ever survived. And he talks about, the people on the moon are having a war with the people of the sun, and then they go to all these other places that have all these other aliens and things like that, and he describes them and
Sounds like
it's
Star Trek.
So it's
I,
like the first like science fiction novel.
yes. So I mean I thought that was fascinating. So the idea that we as human beings just got fascinated by this, I don't think so. I think we've been fascinated from a long time, but I
Beings
think
that
that
they like basically named all of their, especially, if you go back to like Greece, I mean, all of their deities are basically constellations,
yes. And so
if
I
you
think it's
really think about
fascinating.
it.
But I mean, what you're talking about with these newest things, I think it's just is it a cover up? Yeah, probably it's a cover up. Um, is it a conspiracy? Depends on how you define conspiracy. Some people would say that it needed to be classified and only people who wanted to be a part of that could be a part of that. You know what I mean? Because
Well,
of the technology.
I think the problem, I guess, so a lot of the stuff that I was reading about was the concern for security, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of concerns. And
But there's people
interestingly
who
enough,
also, Jen, say that if they were such a concern, wouldn't
but
they have, like stopped
it's,
things?
but yeah, but here's the thing. It's not the concern that I was thinking about. Like I first thought like they're concerned that UFOs or some kind of technology, but it's really not like that. The concern is that these could be things that people have seen due to a secret operation or technology that only our government has. And if you start releasing stuff, if you put things together, you can identify things that other people, like everybody, shouldn't probably know about.
Well, obviously, in order to continue to be in power, you want the best equipment possible. And if some
But
other
it's
country
more
gets
than
that,
just equipment,
it
though,
could put
Ange.
them at an advantage over other countries,
But
obviously.
think even beyond that. Like, I mean, if they're doing a secret mission, and I'm just making this up, this is full disclosure, I'm just totally brainstorming, but a lot of the stuff I read was that there are different operations like going on. And so like you might have the military doing something somewhere, right? Surveilling, I don't know, Israel. Okay. And if people get enough information around a sighting, that they could possibly then put the facts together to realize that that surveillance was happening. It's things like that that make it like our bigger concerns as far as security goes, because sometimes these are things that are a result of some sort of an operation that the military or whomever is doing that they don't want people to know about.
So they're
Yeah.
so somewhat, I mean, because if you kind of look at some of these different sightings that they've had, not all of them, but a good number of them have happened when we have been having war with each other or we've been having disagreements with other countries. So like they talk
Mm-hmm.
about like when things like obviously World War II. Now, who's to say that they weren't around in World War I and we just weren't aware of it? You know what I mean?
Right. Or yeah, it's very possible, and you're right. We just
Or
don't know.
even the Civil War, or even, you know what I mean? There's just other
Well,
things
there
that we're
is a
not for sure
story
of.
about George Washington that I've heard about where he had an intervention during the American Revolution, where he was told to go ahead and move forward. That, I mean, he felt it was from like, angels or something to that fact, but people question, was it that or was it aliens?
Could have
Like I have
been.
seen some information about that. And he ended up winning that particular battle, which I'm sorry, I can't remember the battle, but
Battle of
I
Trenton,
find it interesting that, he basically, you know, was encouraged to go ahead with this battle. And it was a major battle that turned the American Revolution,
which is
to the
interesting and
American side.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Why? And the thing is that one
The
of the other
Patriots.
things that I was reading is that during the Cold War, there was quite a few sightings during the Cold War. And think about that. You're talking about that's when the nuclear, obviously, we got nuclear ability. We were able to make nukes the whole time. There's a lot of frightening stuff at that point. So, you know, was there something watching us as we're going through this? Because obviously, eventually, obviously, we have the de-escalation, you know, and we had the signing that was to get rid of many of these warheads that we had, right? So, are we in another time period where we're seeing a lot of UAPs, because it's a little turbulent right now,
Possibly.
you know?
I don't
Um,
even think we can say that we're seeing more. I think we don't have enough information to say that.
That's true, because it may just feel like it's more because people have phones and quick access to send information out to so many different people.
well, and that might be the reason why we feel like it's way more known now, and people are demanding or trying to push the envelope of how much does the government really know? And I mean, obviously, Congress is super interested in this because even Congress didn't know. Do you know what I
Some
mean?
things,
Some
some
things,
things,
but
but
but they
there's a lot of people that report um, that we're only getting like a sliver of the information that's out there based on things that the Congress have been briefed on.
Right.
correct. And I mean, again, I mean, you know, but my thing is that are they out there?
Yeah. So is
Yes.
there life out there? That's the next question, which, I mean, obviously, our government is not saying that they have actually found evidence of alien life or obtained examples of alien technology. Now, there may be others that that have come out, whistleblowers that say differently. Like
But
Bob
here's the interesting
Lazar.
thing. If you think of so David Grusch,
Right.
okay? He's the one that like
Right. He's
basically
come
was
out more recently. Yes.
2023 is when he came out. When he testified, and this is something I think is super interesting. When he testified at the hearing and he was asked questions by Congress about that whole thing of, you know, did we recover um alien people, basically that kind of thing. His response was, or he claimed that non-human biologics
Right.
came from the crash site.
But what does that mean? I mean,
But
what
A skin
exactly,
cell.
you
well, here's
know?
the thing. It's not human, but he's
Hmm.
got the word bio in there, which
Right.
means something that's living. And so, could you read into that
Living.
Like us
to
sending a chimpanzee out into space. I'm just messing around. But I'm just
Yes,
saying, you
that's what
don't
it is.
know what
Yeah.
that was. We
And
don't know what
again,
it is.
it
And
could
that's not
literally be a
something.
cell. It could literally be a cell because a cell is biological.
Well, and they're also
Correct.
saying these plasma balls seem to have conscious or some type of consciousness to them. So, but they're not an actual person, so to speak, that we can see compared to us. uh you know they're very different. So, but at the same point, they seem to have, you know thought in terms of moving, and things like that. So they feel they have like some type of consciousness in terms of the way that they move. Now,
Well, they
exactly,
appear.
we don't know.
Here.
They appear
Yeah.
to
Right, right. We don't know for
based
certain. I
on
mean, it could
stuff.
be
Yeah.
somebody's, remotely, you know, moving them. We just don't know. But obviously, you know, they have not come out and said anything to that extreme. And,
No.
in this article specifically, they talk about how really they feel that these release really are only fueling more speculation, conspiracy, and armchair pseudoscience. So, which I think is kind of funny to just negate and you
Yeah, but
know,
some of the scientists, like for instance, there's a Harvard scientist who has done tons of research on this. So there's some very well-known people that are considered scientists so if the thing is that if you decide that it's pseudoscience, okay, what is science? Science is having a curiosity and
right.
conducting experiments and making observations. So
And
these
that
people are making
specific,
observations.
just real quick, that specific statement came from Sean Kirkpatrick. He was the former director of the Pentagon. Um, and that's a partial quote for him. Obviously, it's only a partial quote, so I'm always leery when I only hear part of it. But at the same point, to use that type of language, though, is almost to like, I mean, I feel it's almost like, negating and downplaying people and their fascination with this. Because I mean, I can remember as a very young child being extremely fascinated, and maybe that was fueled by things like going to a festival each year that was spooky and unknown things, or books that I read, or movies that I saw during that formative time that we were growing up. And that's why these things pretty well captivate me to and I love, as you guys both know, and I'll admit it, I love to watch shows about UFOs. I love to watch shows about unknown paranormal things, because to me it's just my curiosity of our world. No
Well,
different than
and
I like to watch animal shows as well and learn about animals and plants and all other things are oceans, so I mean,
Well,
it's
but see,
curious.
when he says those kinds of things, like the science stuff and all that, what you have to think about is if you go back scientifically, how many things have human beings proved scientifically after we had basically believed something different?
Well, and I mean, you
Oh,
can just go back to something like
the
electricity.
world's not flat.
Right. Or
That's
just the
correct.
concept of electricity. I'm sure people prior to, you know, Edison coming out with that, the work that he did, and
More
others,
like Tesla, but yeah.
Tesla and others, I'm sure there were others
Edison
too.
stole Edison
But
stole Tesla
but
stuff.
needless to
But
say, I mean, it's just,
listen to your son, Angie.
something that was like, unknown and seemed fantastical, I'm sure, to many people back then. No different than when, the Wright brothers were trying to fly their planes. People probably laughed at them and said, "You are out of your gourd," trying to think you're going to put something in the air and fly it, you know? So, I mean, I do see how, people that are fascinated with want more information because they want to see where this is going to go, you know?
I do too. And I'll just say that I think humans in general are hubris, and we want to pretend like we know and control things instead of just accepting that we don't know everything and we don't control everything. And, while there are things, let's say, you know, like vaccines that seem very safe and probably are safe, there's always that chance that maybe we're wrong. And if you can't accept that, that's like, you can be wrong. Like, maybe the information you have is missing something, right?
Right.
Then you're just deluded. Period. Because the truth is that there's a good chance that vaccines are totally fine. But, sometimes there's that little percent. And
But
it
it
can
also
always
is
go that direction.
important to leave that curiosity open. I mean, we look back
Mm-hmm.
to, the beginnings of cell phones with Steve Jobs, and just, he went and he did this, visit where he was meditating and got this idea. No different than, if you want to say, Tesla and Edison and them had
Mm-hmm.
this idea, and from that, created something that impacts our lives every day. And I mean, I think this too would be something, if there is a point that there is life out there, that, that may come to a point where that impacts us every day, you know. And I have a lot of thoughts on, you know, uh, a lot of these people that have talked about coming near one of these particular machines, we'll say machines, but aircraft, UAPs,
UAPs.
whatever, that they were extremely, that they received like radiation, burns from it, um, that there were issues with them being able to come near those particular aircraft. And maybe they're not around us because we can't be around them, because they're able to handle the radiation that they're around, but we, as the beings that we are, cannot. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why there may or may not have been, you know UFOs landing and meeting with people. I mean, it could be very dangerous. It
Well,
also,
it's interesting that you say that, Ange, because what they considered Britain's Roswell
yeah,
in 1980, um, the person who saw that, which was obviously Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt,
right,
he was the one that touched the actual object that was there that had all the writing on it. And that's one of the things that he said was that the two things. Number one was that he felt as if, like, as he said, I felt like I got a download of information, which is interesting. That was his words, download of information. And then the second thing is that when he went through, because he ended up being sick, they basically were doing testing on him in the 1980s, and they were like, "Were you exposed to radiation, high
Right.
quantities of radiation?" Which is really fascinating. The other thing that you were talking about with these UAPs, some of the different uh, people who have actually examined the UAPs and how they actually move in the sky and how fast they go,
Right.
when they look at how fast that's going, most of the astrophysicists truly believe that human beings, their bodies would not be able to withstand that kind of speed. Like it
Right.
would wreak havoc on our bodies.
Well, and then we
So
think about what he said, David Grusch saying that there was a biological being. He didn't even say being. What was it?
non-human biological.
Right. When he's saying something like that, I mean, it could be something that's able to withstand those things, that it's not actual people, that it could be something like, let's say, a robot, a biological robot that's in there and not an actual being. You know what
Could
I'm
be.
saying?
Really could be
Like,
anything,
I mean,
really.
I think with the fact that there's billions and billions of stars out there and many, many possible Earth-like or similar Earth-like atmospheres throughout the billions and billions of stars that are out there, which seems just unbelievable, that there it could definitely be a possibility. I can't imagine that you would make billions and billions of stars and only have one tiny planet and billions.
Yeah.
Right.
That
It's
has life.
statistically not plausible, really.
Right.
But
Right.
I was going to ask you guys
Yeah.
about, so Angie, you kind of were talking about cell phones, and then Stephanie, you kind of were talking about like biologics and things like that. And so, have you heard of this Tic Tac and Beyond by
Yes.
Paul Elijah?
Yeah, I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had not. I don't think I've heard of that actually, but I mean, I get the plot.
Why
But
don't you give the
yeah,
background so our people that are listening will know what we're talking about in case they
okay.
aren't familiar with it.
So it's a book, and what it does is it poses uh, the the thesis that the U.S. government is working in a clandestine alliance with the aerospace giants like Northrop Grumman, um, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin. And
Yep.
they're
Mm-hmm.
working to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology. And
Yes.
so that's why they don't want anybody to know. But one of the things that it also alludes to is cell phones, right? Like, how did we get to cell phones as fast as we did?
Right.
Well, did it come from this technology?
Where did
You
stealth come
know?
from? That's the
Yeah.
other thing. So the idea that these UAPs don't make much noise. Okay,
Right.
so
They're
if
silent.
you,
Right.
I don't know how many of you guys have ever been to an air show. Okay, I've been to multiple air shows because I've lived by Langley and places like that. Okay, and at the air shows, these different planes that we've had up until the stealth plane we have. Okay, they make a ton of noise.
Right. I mean, if you
Some
think
of
about
them
it,
a
the
lot.
guys that are out there, the air traffic guys that are out on the ground, they're wearing headgear
Yep.
because of the noise that's out there.
But here's the thing. The the one of the newest engineered planes that we have do not make nearly, I mean, the noise. So this is why, like, when they talked about doing the surprise attack on Iran and they sent in those particular planes. The reason being is because number one, they're very hard to be able to see them on radar, which means you got to understand radar. And radar didn't come about until World War II. And number two, they're super quiet, which makes you wonder, how do we go from a plane that was super loud to a plane that doesn't make much noise?
Well,
Where did we get that technology?
some people believe during World War II, because so many of those German scientists came here to the United States, that they were already working on that type of stuff. I'm not saying that's absolutely correct. I'm just saying there's a notion that, you know, they were brought here to continue to work, but for the United States. So
I would
we
totally
know
agree with that.
That's
That
probably
is,
a truth.
I'm going to tell
but
you, that is super true. And the reason why I'm going to tell you that is because where I live, if you study the people that were here, and why they were brought to where I live, um, it they were brought here during World War II to work for the United States, and they were saved basically because obviously during that time Germany was killing some of their scientists because the scientists wouldn't do what they wanted, and so they were basically brought here to the United States and gave their knowledge and scientific understanding, especially of, again, the astrophysicists and the people who understand physics like nobody else. And they're the ones that backed up a lot of our engineering of a lot of these different technologies we have today.
Yeah.
So
let's look at the
definitely
next
very
question,
interesting.
because we could go on and on and on.
oh
So the
no.
next question is, what did the astronauts see? So, you know, based on what was released, again, this is based on what was released. You know, I mean, obviously, people have a lot of thoughts about whether we landed on the moon or not. But based on what was released, you know, during the like debriefing of Apollo 11's return, Buzz Aldrin basically said he saw some unusual sights from the aircraft. You
Yes.
know,
Lots
like
of light.
a fairly bright light source, which they tentatively ascribed to possibly like something like a laser. So, I mean, obviously,
How long
you
have
know,
lasers been around? How long have we had
well,
lasers?
but I don't know that it was around when he was on. We're talking.
Well, that's what I mean. I was just like, in my mind,
I don't know.
That would have
when
been in
they,
the 60s.
Yeah, I don't know when they actually started to come around, but one of the things that I watched was a video that where they were talking about like the flashes of light. And
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize like cosmic rays. I mean, how much do you guys know about cosmic rays?
I don't know anything about cosmic rays.
So
what's a cosmic ray?
It was super interesting. Basically, it's like particles that move through space, and they pick up light. Okay, and they're moving at speeds of light in general, but in their accelerated particles. Okay, and so they can come from all over and go anywhere, basically, right?
Okay.
They think they're coming from like supernovas from other galaxies.
Possible. I mean, if you think about, you know, a supernova and the amount of energy, I mean, think about a lightning bolt. I mean, obviously it creates light, right? As it's, you know, interacting with the ions in the air. So obviously something like that, if it's moving through space, could interact with the space, you know, the space around it, what's in that space, you know, and cause various phenomena.
Right.
So, I mean, I think some of the other things
there are all kinds of research papers and things about these. Okay. But basically, I didn't know this either, but they had a lot of problems with like these buzzing lights and things like that that were happening when they started sending astronauts out to space, right? And so now what they do is they actually have a helmet that detects them,
Oh,
so that
wow.
you can tell what they are. Yeah.
Oh,
And
um,
it basically can remove the effects of the cosmic rays. And so, what they like, how when they're taking pictures, I guess I didn't know this either, but when they take pictures of like things in outer space, they take multiple pictures of it
I didn't know
because,
that.
yeah, they do. They have to take multiple pictures of it because they have to go in and analyze those pictures and remove the cosmic rays from the picture. So they need multiple shots of it because you might pick the cosmic ray up in one shot, but not the next two.
Hmm.
So these are
Okay.
particles that are out in space that are going really fast and reflecting light.
They can reflect light. So,
Okay.
it's basically they're moving. So they're accelerated particles, right, that
Yeah.
are cast out into space at the light
Mm-hmm.
of speed or near the light of speed. Okay.
Wow.
And then they basically are moving through space. When they come, they actually can come in the atmosphere here, but when they do, the atmosphere causes them to it busts open their atoms and molecules,
Okay.
which allows people to better see them. So like you'll see them better like on mountains and things like that, but
So
they
is this
do
kind
come
of like
down.
the whole aurora lights like that? Would that be like what you're talking about?
I don't think so. I think, it's a similar concept, but I don't think it's the same thing.
The exact same thing. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, basically, it's the reflection of
So is
particles.
that what they're saying that Buzz Aldrin saw out there?
Well, they don't know for certain. Obviously, there
Correct.
during Apollo 12 mission, there were 5 unidentified phenomena that they saw in the sky. And the Apollo 17 crew reported seeing these very bright particles of or fragments streaking past their capsule in space, which could be what you're talking about, Jen.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, they didn't even really know about these, if I understand it correctly. They didn't even really exactly know about these until they started sending people out into space.
Mm-hmm.
And there were these reports of light,
Right. I
and
mean, and
then
if you figure
they
you wouldn't know
also,
until you go
right,
there.
right. And then when they started getting like really good photography and things like that of stars and galaxies and stuff, that's when they realized they have to, sometimes it's like the rays, right? The cosmic
Mm-hmm.
rays will look like a star, but it's not.
Hmm.
So, and
That's
now they
interesting.
have like
Yeah.
programs that run across and look at the photos in order to try to identify these. But it's very hard with our current ability to like photograph, uh, I guess, imaging abilities that we
Yes.
currently have today to know, which again is why they have to take multiple pictures. So,
Well,
Very
it's
interesting.
it you know, it's so think about it this way too. Some of the newest ability to capture photographs can capture them like they're taking so many pictures so fast that it's like partial nanoseconds. Does that make
yeah.
sense? And the only reason I know anything about that is because, I watch, shows that talk about these kinds of photographing and how why they use it. They use it so they can catch things like what you're talking about because
Hmm.
they're so fast that at a blink of an eye you'll miss it because it's
Mm.
less than a nanosecond that it's in the frame.
The
It's
other thing that it talks about is that like cosmic rays interact with your retinas.
Oh,
You may
really?
not even be able to see
Really?
it, but it interacts with your retinas, which can, kind of make you feel like someone's trying to get in your head.
Ooh, well, that's kind of
That's
freaky.
crazy.
Yeah.
So many things to discuss, but
This would be the reason why I will not go to space.
yeah, you never know. I don't know if it'll
No,
happen in our lifetime, but you know.
Angie, my thought is no, thank you. I have
Okay, I
tall
don't want to
man
go
legs.
to an island. I'm worried about just even going to an island and out in the ocean, let alone out into space.
Space.
Again, I'm not that person. I'd love to have
No.
more tenacity, but I like
The
to keep
newest
my feet
the
on the
newest
ground.
astronauts, I was fascinated by what they were doing, and I was envious and then horrified at the same time because in my head I was like, "Oh my God, what if something goes wrong up there?" I swear to-
Scary. It
Where my
is. It
head goes, I'm
is.
like, "You can die doing this," but we need people like that. We need people
Right.
who
We
are
need those
curious,
people that are, you know,
Willing to
willing to
motivated,
die.
stack. There,
not just
yes, we
willing
do.
to die, but
Hmm.
that are, that are
Willing to
I
Have
take the
have
risk.
a high
yeah,
risk
risk takers.
tolerance.
Thank you. Risk
Have
takers.
a high risk tolerance.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
which is not me.
and
I don't
I
know.
say that because we need those people that do those kinds of things when they go down in the ocean too, which I'm not a proponent of going in deep in the ocean either. So,
I would
Scary
that's the
be
thing.
monsters
going
are.
in the ocean totally freaks me out. I'd go to space every day of the week before I'd
You're
go
like,
I'll go
down in
to
the
space
ocean.
before I go in the ocean deep. But
nope.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think we need risk takers like that. I think we need people who are willing to do that, but it would not be me because and I think that when you go out there, you also have this curiosity of, am I going to see something? Where I think some of the UAPs that we're talking about, these are people who weren't intending to see anything and then did.
Right, which is why I'd love to drag you guys to crazy places like, out in California
To the wonky
Now,
to
I
house.
will
What was
say,
that
yeah.
house called?
when we went to Mount
Oh
The
yeah.
Rainier, I
vortex.
didn't see
The Vortex
anything.
House. But even to go to Mount Shasta, I mean, I really wanted to go to
I
Mount
didn't see anything.
Shasta to experience that place. I wish we had more time. We just
Mm.
didn't,
And
but
our next time that we go. But I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, I think that it it causes us to wonder what we're seeing. And that's what's nice about most people being able to have their cell phones now, is because we are getting more evidence because people are videotaping these things
right.
and
Well, and
sending
our
them onto
our
the net.
videos too can see things that sometimes we can't see. That's
Hmm.
the
Correct.
thing. Some of these videos that they're showing us are not things that we can even see.
No,
Yeah.
because
Because
Well,
they're using different technology that's, not just a
exactly.
regular
well,
camera.
you bring that up. What's crazy about it is and I've been to help to kind of because I'm interested in this and I watch a lot anyways, but I wanted to do more research, and I guess over in Iran on the one of or Iraq at one of the U.S. military, they have what they called the spaghetti
Yeah, like the
monster,
jellyfish thing. Yeah.
the jellyfish UAP. And the
Right.
crazy thing is, when they were talking about it, there you could see in the actual video there are like U.S. military people walking underneath it,
That don't even see it there.
and they don't even see it. And even the guy said, if you look at like just a regular like videoing, like what we're doing, you wouldn't see it. It took special like
A special
things that they were,
lens.
yes, to be able
Yeah.
to see this
I
thing.
don't know if
And
that was
then
infrared, if that was an infrared,
think it was
but
infrared. I think it was.
Yeah.
The, and if other people know by far, drop it in down below. But I found that fascinating because this thing was weird looking. It was
well,
super
you
weird
know,
looking.
as he used it's biological whatever. Well, there's a biological whatever.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's a biological whatever.
And
Up in
and
the
and that's the
sky.
thing. But how many, here's the other part. How many of us don't know that we actually have encountered possibly a biological whatever
I
and didn't even
know.
know it?
I know.
It could be happening like right this
Well,
minute. Yeah.
the
Oh,
fact
let's
that
hope not.
we're only allowed to see a small fraction of the, the visible spectrum, which I always
Yep.
would love to have glasses that could see in all spectrums. That's like something I think would be the coolest thing to have, is glasses that can see in all spectrums, because I want to see in all spectrums.
Didn't Benjamin
Yeah.
Franklin have the weird glasses that go like you could put
Yes.
different? Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Did
And he
he?
could see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is there
Look him up.
nobody making these?
Have you not watched National Treasure? Isn't that
Oh,
what it's
Yeah.
but is
called?
that really
Yes.
real, or is that just
No, I
national
think it's
treasure?
really real.
I think that was really real. I think he had like these
Mhm.
very special
Lenses
glasses
that he could
that had
see?
multiple lenses to see.
Huh.
Yes.
Different
Yeah.
But I like your
things,
next
different
question,
ways.
Ange. What do the
Yeah.
files tell us?
Well, the
I love that.
files, this
Yeah.
is the last question, which I think is a good question. You know, basically, these are files that they've had for a while. And, obviously, you know, we're not going to know everything right now. And we shouldn't be jumping to conclusions about even what's been provided, because I don't know that they know everything. Maybe
Mm-mm.
not, but the likelihood is they don't know everything either. And I'm just hoping that we get more, because I'm
Here's
super curious.
here's the thing that I thought was a stat that I thought was super interesting.
Okay.
AARO, AARO,
Yeah,
right?
the Arrow
Yes.
program. Yeah,
Arrow
yeah,
Arrow program.
states that approximately 40% of the reported phenomenon lack a plausible explanation after first stage analysis. 40%.
yeah,
They have no idea what they are.
Yes. Right. And that's what people need to understand. I mean, I think that these files um back up the idea that these UAPs, or whatever we want to call them, um, are not just speculation, are not just the public or the people who are putting out there saying that it's something. Um, it is truly some sort of phenomena that we may not fully understand, and that's okay, um, to not understand it. But I think the government, at least the United States government and some other governments out there, are now recognizing and putting out there that there are UAPs, there are some sort of biological things that we may not understand, um, that could pose a threat. But how much more they know, I don't think we're going to know that immediately. And
And
part of that has to do with the classified stuff.
right, and I agree with that because I was reading the clearance job news, right?
Hmm.
Which they talk about like anything that is related to government classification. Because again, I was trying to figure out like how do they pick what they do or don't release? You know, is it random? I mean, how's it work? And the one thing that I think, and this article that I read said was that, we don't know whether there's alien life or not. It's an open question. But the thing that's certain is that if anything is picked up by cutting edge surveillance systems and uncovered that way, you're definitely not going to know about it. They're not going to share it with you because they're going to protect the technology. And, it just is continuing to fuel the speculation about what the government is hiding.
And
yeah.
here's the
I mean,
thing,
whether
the
it's a
government's
good reason
hiding
or
their
not a good
technology.
reason, you know.
They're going to protect the technology they have. And I'm going to go back. Remember, I told you I went to that air show? Now this has been many years ago, and they probably still do it. So they have the black stealth flight and I think it's a U2, I think, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm terrible with this. Rob always tells me what they are. But I can remember they had one at the air show, and they had a double roped around it with people
Hmm.
that were military who had machine guns. And not only did they have machine guns, there were signs there that said, if you pass the roped area, you will be shot on sight. And
Wow.
this was at Langley. And part of it is because they didn't want you taking pictures of it. They didn't want you getting too close to it. And because it's a threat to the technology we have. And I know there's people that want to know, and I believe me, I want to know. But at the same point, I definitely don't want to put us at risk either at the same point. So it's like,
Right. I mean,
how
I
much do
get
they put
why
out?
there might be, their reasoning for, holding information because obviously, we're very fortunate where we live. We are very fortunate to live in the country we live in, even though, um, you know, it is a little difficult sometimes when things aren't going. Everybody is up and roar about some of the things going on. But at the same point, we have a lot that many other people don't have. So,
And
eh, you
and to
know,
put on that, Angie, the thing is think
oh,
about it this way.
sorry.
We just celebrated our 250th celebration of of the United States, you know.
Right.
Um, I would say that we've made it up to this point. So I'm hoping that with everywhere that we're headed, that this information and some of the files that they will release some more that they can release, and that if it needs to stay secret, that it keeps it secret. Because some things, and I get people feel like they should know, and I think that's kind of a product of today. And remember at the beginning, we were talking about why did people keep secrets in like the 40s and the 50s and even in the 60s,
Mhm.
and now all this stuff is coming out now. I think some of it is this mentality and change in mindset that you have a right to know everything. And the question is, if you knew that they could release that information to you, but a million people would die because of it, would you want it released? That's the question I think sometimes has to be asked. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying, if you knew people would die because you wanted that information, I could give it to you. Would you really want them to die?
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
I'm going to
just a
leave
thought.
like the conversation with this thought that I have. Okay.
Okay.
And that is, some people, they believe in the Bible, right? And this is the word of God, and they believe it in its faith, right? There's no guarantee that it's right, no guarantee that it's wrong. It's a choice. So I feel like I choose myself to believe that the people that are protecting this, while they're not infallible, they ultimately are trying to do the right thing, because I believe that most people are trying to do the right thing with the best of their ability. Most people are not trying to do harm to others. So, with that in mind, I think the government is trying to do the right thing. Whether they get it right or not, that's a whole different question. But I think we have to have some faith in people, you
Yeah.
know, to release the information when they feel like things are going in the wrong direction, and to keep the information under wraps when it's important to keep it under wraps.
Or maybe we're all being led towards becoming more alien-like. We never know. But
Angie, there is a whole
I
belief that all of
I
us are
know.
alien. There's a belief that we're
Again, if we
all
can't
alien.
be
Yeah.
around those, maybe we are baby trickling into being able to be around them. Who
Maybe.
knows?
Now,
But
wasn't there a show about that? Like there was
I
this
don't know.
alien thing that came here, alien technology, and it everybody was freaked out, and some people thought it was good and some people thought it wasn't good. And then it turned out that the sun was burning out, and whatever this alien technology was, it helped people convert to something that could survive without the ozone layer.
I don't know. I've never heard of
I'm
that,
pretty
but
sure. I don't know what that show
interesting.
is. I'm a huge sci-fi person. I know I've seen this show. So
If you
I
know
just
what
don't
that
remember what
show
it's
is, drop a
called.
line. Drop a
Yeah,
line
put
because
it
I
the
can't remember what
name
it's
Yeah.
in
called.
there.
Name and then on the line.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're right, Jennifer. And I think the evolution of stuff and the more that we keep our eyes to the sky, the more we're going to learn. And so, if you're a person who likes to keep your eyes to the sky, please keep videotaping. Please keep turning those things in because the more observations we have and the more information we have, the more likely we're going to be able to figure out what it is. But I will say for me, I believe in aliens or I believe in other living things. And I believe they probably have better technology than we have. And so, you know, that's kind of where I sit with that.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think with this much possibility that it's more likely than not. But I'm going to close out. And when I close out, I just want to dedicate this to David Wilcock and Nick Pope, both people that have been around the UFO community for a very long time that I loved watching in so many different shows that have died in the last like about 6 months, and I will dearly miss not seeing them on new shows. So I'd love to dedicate this to those two and any other of the people that are out there that are really working hard to find out what the truth is. So thanks
The
for
truth
being
is
with
out there.
us. Yep. And
The truth is out there.
the truth is out there. But thanks for visiting with us. Please subscribe and like the video
Like
if
and
you want us
share,
to do some more deep dives on UFO information. We can definitely do this because I love it, and I'll do it any day of the week. And then also, again, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, because we love to talk, please leave it in the comments, and we'll look at that up and try and find time to talk about it. So thanks for visiting with us and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.